When most people think of the Lord of the Rings, they picture brave hobbits, the return of a king, and a dark power rising in Mordor. But what if we told you there's another layer to this story? Older, deeper, and far more ancient. Because while men and hobbits were busy playing their part, the elves were watching, guiding, mourning, fading. This is the story not from the Shire, but from Rivendell, from Lothlorien, from the golden eyes of those who remember everything that came before. This is the Lord of the Rings through Elven eyes.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
By the time Frodo Baggins sets out from the Shire, the elves have already lived through millennia of sorrow, sacrifice, and fading glory. Their kingdoms are no longer growing, they are enduring. Lothlorien shines with unnatural beauty, but it is a beauty maintained by Galadriel's ring of power, not by the strength of a thriving people. Rivendell, once a refuge for warriors and lawmasters, has become a quiet sanctuary, a place of counsel more than command. To elves like Elrond and Galadriel, the War of the Ring isn't just a threat to the free peoples. It is the end of an age, the final struggle of an ancient world before it slips into shadow and myth. They don't fight for power or dominion. They fight to preserve what little remains of a time that is already slipping away. The ring's re-emergence signals more than Sauron's return. It signals the end of the elves' time in Middle-earth, and they know it. To many, the Fellowship of the Ring feels like a story driven by men, guided by a wizard and carried on the backs of hobbits. But from the elves' point of view, their role is subtle yet foundational. It begins in Rivendell, under the guidance of Elrond, one of the oldest and wisest beings left in Middle-earth. Half-elven by blood, but elven in spirit, Elrond understands better than most what is at stake. He lived through the rise and fall of Sauron once already. He saw Gil-galad perish, he watched Isildur fail, and so when the Council of Elrond convenes, it's not just about choosing who will carry the ring, it's about correcting the mistakes of the past. Elrond's refusal to take the ring himself or entrust it to elven hands isn't born of cowardice. It's wisdom. The elves know the danger of domination masked as salvation. They have already wielded the three rings, Vilya, Nenya, and Narya, crafted without Sauron's direct influence, but still tied to the one. If the one survives, so do the three. But if it is destroyed, their power will fade. The elves are not just risking the safety of the world, they're sacrificing their own legacy. Galadriel too plays a critical role, not through direct action, but through testing and preparing others. When Frodo offers her the ring, she sees what she could become, a queen, beautiful and terrible as the dawn, but she refuses. "I pass the test," she says. That choice ripples through the rest of the story, for if even Galadriel can turn away, there is hope that others might too. And then come the gifts. Not weapons of destruction, but tools of survival and memory. The cloaks, the lembas, the light of Eärendil. Each becomes vital in the journey ahead. These are not random trinkets. They are the elves' final blessing upon the mortal world. To the elves, the Fellowship is not just a quest to destroy evil, it is the last great hope that the world they've loved can survive without them. For the elves, the War of the Ring is not just a battle, it is a funeral march for their time in Middle-earth. As Sauron rises, many elves sense the inevitability of change. They do not see this war as one they can win or lose in a traditional sense. Victory will not mean restoration, it will mean fading with dignity. The world of men is coming, and the elves are, at last, stepping aside. If we look closely at Lothlorien, a realm so untouched by time it feels like an echo of the First Age. but the very magic that keeps it so. The Ring of Nenya wielded by Galadriel, like we've said, relies on that power of the One. If the One Ring is destroyed, so too is the sustaining magic of Lorien. Galadriel knows this, yet still she supports the quest. She chooses the fading of her realm over the domination of all others. The same is of course true in Rivendell. Elrond continues to advise and support the Free Peoples, knowing full well that success will eventually mean the end of his home, his power, and even his daughter's immortal life. The Sylvan Elves of Mirkwood continue to guard their forest from the encroaching darkness of Dol Guldur, knowing the odds and knowing that they stand alone. Yet they fight not for glory, not for dominance, but to preserve what little light remains. To see the world changing and to choose not to stand in its way, that is the quiet tragedy of the Elves. They could have resisted. They could have clung tighter to their realms and rings and immortality, but instead, they let go. They help Frodo, they aid Aragorn, they support Gandalf. And they do it knowing that when all is done, they will become forgotten by the world they helped save. The Elves see clearer than most. This war is not about power or conquest. It is about legacy. And in that way, they win by choosing to lose. The defeat of Sauron marks a victory for those Free Peoples. But, like we've said, for the Elves, it's the beginning of the end. With the destruction of the One Ring, that power in those 3 Elven rings fades. The age of preservation ends. Lothlorien finally begins to diminish. Rivendell grows quieter and quieter. The once bright enclaves of elven kind begin to slip away like a dream upon waking. Galadriel, Elrond, even Gandalf, the bearers of the 3 by the end, know what must come next. And so they prepare for their final journey across the sea. Not as an escape, but as a return. A return to the west, to Valinor, to the undying lands. This is not death, but it is an ending. And for those who stay behind, like Legolas, the change is felt keenly. He wanders the forests of Fangorn, sails down the Anduin, but even he knows Middle-earth is no longer a land for the Elves. Eventually, he too will sail west, taking Gimli with him in fact, one of the last whispers of elven presence in a world now ruled by men. The Elves do not linger, they fade. Not because they were defeated, but because they were never meant to endure this long in the world of change. Their age ends not with a bang, but with a soft farewell in a true elven way. The ships leave from the Grey Havens. Frodo boards, as does Bilbo, but it is the Elves who lead them, because they understand that some journeys are not about where you go, but about what you leave behind. So there we have it. When we look at The Lord of the Rings through elven eyes, the story becomes something altogether more tragic, more ancient, and more inevitable. This wasn't their war, not really. It was the last breath of their time in Middle-earth, a fading song played out beneath trees they once planted. They fought not to reclaim glory, but to pass the world on in peace, to see the last light guarded before it dimmed. And they did so with grace, wisdom, and quiet sorrow. Elves don't age the way we do, but they feel time like no one else. Every forest cut, every mountain marred, every friend lost. They carry all of it, forever. So by the end of the War of the Ring, the victory is truly bittersweet. Evil is defeated, but that world they knew is gone. Men will now shape the Fourth Age and beyond, and the Elves, they just become legend, and those legends, they become myths, and some then pass out of all knowledge and writings. So when you next read The Lord of the Rings, remember this: it's not just a story of hobbits and kings and dark lords. It's also the swan song of a people who never truly belonged in this world, but they gave everything to protect it. And now it is your turn. What do you think the Elves truly felt as they watched Middle-earth change forever? Did they see hope in the rise of men, or only the sorrow of their own passing age? Share your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. And along with this, if you would like to support the channel in other ways, please consider our Patreon. You can't always rely on YouTube itself, so this extra support will really help the channel stay strong and keep us getting that content out for you. But with that, thank you for spending just some of your time with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.